Okay, in this short video, I'm going to talk about how important it is to properly save an image for its destination. In this case, I'm referring to web pages and applications. You might be saving an image that's going to go on an application for a small device or for use on a computer screen, or you might be saving an image for a website in which you'll have a web page where you're going to place that image into a web page. Both of the ways that I'm going to save these two images that I have available here, both of these saving techniques are for device-oriented images, not for print, for something that might be held handheld for mobile purposes or might be viewed on a web page a little bit larger. But in each case, they should be saved specifically so that they target the environment that is intending to consume those media elements. So in this case, I have a nice photographic image as if it was taken by a decent camera or a really good phone. We can see we have a nice depth of field here where we can see into the background that's blurry. We have a good sharp focus on it. It fills all of the pixels. All of the pixels are solid. We don't have we don't have very many really sharp edges. We have a few petals and grass blades that we can see here that have a really nice, smooth, sharp edge. But for the majority of the image, we have what could be referred to as continuous tone. Variations of color that are soft and smooth, as we can see here in the background, that transition from one color to the next without a really, really sharp edge. We have organic curvilinear content inside of it. And so this image is a perfect candidate to be saved as a .jpg. And I'm going to go ahead and save this specifically for an app, like a handheld mobile device app, or for a web page. The technique is the same. I'm going to go on and head up to File and select Export. And I'll go to Save for Web Legacy. It'll bring up an interesting dialog box. The dialog box should have two window panes available, one on the left, one on the right. And of course, you can change that by clicking the tabs in the upper left-hand corner here. This would be a representation of the original image. This would be a representation of the image as you intended to go out into your specified format. I like to use 2-up, which has the original image on the left and your target destination on the right. Using this video format here, I'm recording this on Zoom. Zoom doesn't show the difference very much, so I'm going to artificially alter this image real quick so you can see the kind of differences you might see. Let me make this really dramatic. Right? By saving it in various formats, you'll still see the original. If you're using 2-up, you'll be able to see it says original. This continues to show you how the original image looked, and then what it will look like when you export it. Now, I'm not going to use this particular format because I really ought to use a .jpg. And so I'm going to come to the upper right-hand corner of this export dialog, and I'm just going to select JPEG high. What that's going to do is create an image that is optimized in its file format for a mobile device or a web page. And I can see its final pixel dimensions in the lower right here where it says image size. And I can see it's 1,886 pixels wide and 1,257 pixels tall. That's actually kind of a large image, and you should always create the image size that is optimal for your design. Don't send out an image that's too big that you'll have to squeeze down later, and don't send out an image that's way too small that you'll have to stretch later. You want to go ahead and get it as close to the correct size as possible. Now, for this particular example, I might pretend that it's going to go on a smaller device where something over 1,000 pixels wide is unnecessary. So I'll just simply type in a smaller number. I'll type in maybe 900 pixels wide, and I'll click in the viewable area, and it will reset the image. It does not change the original image, but it still shows you a direct comparison between the two. The one on the right is what the actual size of what you will see when it's saved in its new format. I can see that the percentage here is about 47%. And if I wanted to change it to a specific percentage, I could type that in as well, and it will do the math for me. Underneath, I can see the quality drop down, and I like to just check that out. Since we're squeezing it down, I can make it sharper or smoother. I'm going to select sharper. We probably won't see much of a difference here. But we can see that there's a significant difference in the pixel size from the original and the overall volume that the image will be when it's downsampled. So 1.09 megabytes is essentially what it started out as in the larger version of the unedited JPEG, and the newer version will be only 74.33 kilobytes. So it'll be a much smaller image that will work a lot better on a web page or an application. When I've changed my settings here to get it to be the right size, and I've set the quality as I desire, I take a look at the image, and that's what I hope I see on the right, what I'm interested in actually having. Then I'll go ahead and save this new image. Now, using this dialog box, it doesn't do anything to the original image. It doesn't downsample it or anything. It actually makes a brand new copy at the new size. Extremely convenient, so that you don't have to worry about overwriting your previous image. In this case, flowers is what I'm going to call this. And it might be for a web page, or it might be for an app. I'll go ahead and save. I'm going to put this on the desktop. And when I'm done saving, it drops me back to the original image. I'm done with that image. I'll go ahead and close it. I don't need to save it. And I'll take a look at it. I can see here it is. I've saved it to my desktop. I'll open it. And you can see that's the new size of that image. Now, if I have something that needs transparency around it, or I have something that has fairly hard and sharp lines, like a graphic, for instance, this nice illustration of a pencil icon here. If I have something with nice crisp edges that's somewhat graphic in its specific linear details, nice hard sharp lines all around it, or if I have something that needs transparency all the way around it, I want it to be in my application or in my web page where the image stops right at the end of the graphic, then I can utilize transparency through a different file format. In Photoshop, if you haven't seen this before, this square checkerboard, light gray checkerboard background represents a transparent image, meaning that there are solid pixels here where we can see all the different shades of blue, and where we see the checkerboard gray, all of that is transparent. So if I was to look at this, bring this into a web page or an application, all of the pixels out here would be see-through. They'd be totally transparent, and it would allow me to see a graphic only at the edges of the pixels. Only the pixels would be opaque. The non-pixel area, those would be empty. And that's kind of a nice feature. But in order for that to happen, you have to save a file format that can support transparency. So I'm going to go back to the same export concept. I could do a quick export as a PNG, but I don't get quite as much control. I'm going to go to Save for Web Legacy again. Same technology that you've seen before. And you can see here in the demonstration that on the left, we have the original image in my 2-up dialog box here. I can see that I can view the transparency being represented in Photoshop. When I come over to a JPEG, I have solid white pixels, which means that this image will be a rectangle, right? And every image that you export will be a rectangle. But if you want to have transparent area inside of the image, it's got to be in a PNG, or portable network graphic format. I'm going to choose the PNG 24. It's going to give me a nice sharp image that will also maintain transparency. And now I'll be able to save this as a PNG, a portable network graphic that will have nice sharp crisp edges around the graphic visual content, and will also have transparency inside the file. Now, if I don't make sure that transparency is checked, it will still send out a solid image where the pixels will go from corner to corner, and I will not be able to see through the transparent content. You might also notice there's a matte box on the right. This matte box is the color of the surface. So if I wanted to change that surface intentionally, I could change the color. I'm going to go with a slightly deeper red there, and it will change the matte to match that color. But of course, if I have transparency turned on, I will not be able to see that matte, right? And you'll notice that the matte is empty once again because it's transparent. There is no background fill color. With that, I should also consider my target environment for this image. If I wanted to put it somewhere fairly small, like I don't know, an Apple wristwatch, then 1000 pixels is a little bit too big. I'm going to go ahead and shorten that. And I like the bicubic sharpener as my quality adjustment. It sharpens the image as it shrinks the image. And so right now I have an image that is going to be 281 pixels wide and 555 pixels tall. And that dimension is from the border of the file itself. That counts all of the transparent pixels included in the image. So when you're placing this in a website or on an application, keep in mind that its pixel dimension is going to be from the edge of the file to the edge of the file, even if there's not any visual content in it. That 281, that's the width from corner to corner, even if the corners are empty. And the height is 555 pixels from corner to corner, from bottom to top, even if some of those pixels are not displaying any visual content. I'm going to go ahead and save that. And you'll note I think I'll put that on the desktop too. I'll just call it pencil, since that's what I interpret that it is. I'll save that to the desktop. And once again, I don't need to worry about this image anymore. I'm not going to bother to save it because I've already made the adjustments that I want. And I can see here that even on my Windows desktop, it's actually showing me that it's a transparent bordered image. We can see that just a little bit right there. I'll go and open this. And when I look at it in the Windows image viewer, the photos viewer, I can see that it fills everything with white because the Windows photo viewer does not demonstrate transparency for me. I'll need to place it in an application before I can see that transparency. So there you go, how to prepare your image for its appropriate target environment if that environment is a purely digital environment. Thank you very much.